start recording.
We had one single we didn't record there. That's about it.
It works well with us. Kind of collaborative, always kind of reinventing what we want to do. Don't really have a set.
I don't want to keep talking about it off camera.
Oh, we're not even on camera. Yeah, let's
Actually,
talk
we're rolling.
about it. Oh, we're rolling.
I slyly pressed record.
All right.
I'll do the intro. here.
Bastard.
Hey guys. Hey mom.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Slims Presents podcast, aka Between You, Me, and Jose. My name is Chris. I'm your host. Next to me, co-host Donnell.
What's up, world?
And we are here today with our special guest, the band, Guy Fawkes. You guys are operating out of Oakland right now, is that right?
Yeah. I mean,
Three-quarters of us live in Oakland. We do practice in San Francisco, though.
We're an Oakland band.
we practice in the Tenderloin in probably the sketchiest block I've ever set foot in. Like,
You were by the shootings? You ever on over there by Turk and stuff?
we're Turk
Which
and
one?
Taylor.
Like 6 people got shot yesterday or something.
Holy shit, dude!
I think we might have almost
Gunshots.
loaded out. Was it in like the daytime or nighttime?
I think it was the afternoon.
Oh wow!
Over a dice game.
Damn.
Well, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Right.
It was funny. We
Oh,
finished
man.
practice one Tuesday night early. Normally we finish at like 10:30, but there's a stabbing at 10, and we had left at 9:30 just before it. And like literally the next block up, it was all over the papers.
We're like in between Aunt Charlie's bar, which is
An amazing bar.
an amazing bar.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
But don't, wait, hold
No
on.
cell phones.
We're going to edit that out because you can't tell people about Aunt Charlie's.
Oh, okay.
Because then everybody goes and then it gets ruined.
You can't stop
And the
progress,
other
Chris.
side,
Keep
other
Aunt
side
Charlie's
is
the way it is. Like,
SF
don't
drug
fuck it up.
users needle exchange, which
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we should tell everyone about because if they
go
need
get
that,
your
it's
fresh,
right there.
clean needles. Don't share needles.
And
Guys.
then there are 4 people pooping in the street between those 2 places.
Cool.
Welcome to San Francisco.
All right.
So you guys moved out here from Maine, is that right? Is everybody from Maine?
Nate's
We
the only
all-
one actually from Maine, but we all did go
okay.
to school there. Yeah, we're all East Coasters of different descriptions, for sure.
The 3 of us went to college together in Maine, and we moved out here afterwards. And then we met Charlie, his actually first night ever in San Francisco, and he was just
Were you turning up? Turning up, getting wild?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I was turning it
Yeah.
up. Oh,
no,
man.
he was like up to 11.
Charlie, I'm not sure if he actually remembers meeting us, but we remember meeting him. And he's like, oh, that guy plays bass. Like,
Yeah.
That's cool. We should
I remember.
Yeah, we were texting the next day. Who's this? What?
It's funny. Nate is still in my phone as Nate Drums because I was so
And
drunk
he-
I couldn't remember what instrument.
He
played.
does not play the drums.
But the craziest thing is that Nate's from Maine. These guys all went to college in Maine, and I went to a rival college in Maine. And we didn't meet until we were out here. Literally my first night.
Wow.
And these guys were like, oh, we've been talking about trying to play some music together. Peter was in another band at the time. They're like, oh, we're trying to get Peter in. And so we went to some music studio where you could just rent a room by the hour. And we played a couple hours, and then immediately I was like, I want to play with these guys if they will have me.
What was the name of that place? That place was...
Plug and play.
Plug and
Plug and
play.
play.
Right
And I
on
remember
Polk Street.
you were like, I mean, you've since built yourself up to be a self-made man, but at that time you were living.
Wait, what
You were
do you
living
mean?
with your aunt and uncle, right? In an in-law.
I was a broke ass
And you had
motherfucker.
stolen. You were stealing your cousin's bass to come to rehearsals.
Which didn't have a case. No case
I
on the
thought
base.
just,
So Charlie would just
roll
go.
up with
You would roll on Polk Street with just this weird white bass with all these drawings
Bumper
on it.
stickers.
Oh yeah,
Bumper
and
stickers.
some cable made in China that didn't have a name on it, and the white bass that I had was probably a low end Ibanez that got changed to make it cheaper, and my cousin had drawn all these things on it, so I had a bass with nail polish drawings on it, and I showed up there with this shitty cable, and I was like, guys, I want to play some bass with you.
Dude, but that was part of what won me over. I was like, if he can shred on that thing,
It's passion.
yeah, we got a bass
You
player.
can dig in.
What drew you guys to San Francisco of all places?
Lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, Peter had actually graduated a year before Nate and I, and one of the main things that drew Nate and I out here was Peter, because we knew how talented he was, and we knew we had gotten this musical connection together during college, and we had kind of been in a band playing parties and kind of like funk and soul and rock and jam music basically is what it started out as, like playing Stevie Wonder covers or whatever that would make people dance and then party.
Yeah, back in Maine, it was a pretty big layup to like play Stevie Wonder and like Steely Dan tunes to a bunch of college kids and just make them wild out.
There wasn't a whole lot, going on any particular night. So if you had a keg of beer and you were a band, then it was happening.
So you guys were huge in Maine, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
Bread and butter.
But the band, I'm guessing it was a different band in Maine.
Oh, it was the Greg Waters band.
The Greg Waters band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't my choice. I didn't object when it was thrown out there in jest. People were like, "Oh, we should call it that."
I wish
Everyone laughed, and then
I wish podcasts could see how red his cheeks are getting.
We might be able to lean
might.
forward a
Yeah,
little
this
bit.
is
There we go.
No, that was us. We did it for a while. So yeah, Pete moved out, a year before us, and we followed him. And there was also that romantic draw of the Bay Area. We knew we wanted to play music together. We knew we were serious about it, but we also were kind of, there in some ways you're kind of like excited by like a challenge of a place like of New York or LA, but at the same time that it's. I know there was something that I think we kind of assumed. I think from the people who I've talked to, I think it is true that there's just like this kind of level of saturation and also competition in both of those places that kind of it can be like compelling and amazing because the people that are playing there are insanely good all the time and at the top level, but there maybe isn't the same kind of how to say this? I don't know.
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie and like a scene and like the amount of bands that we meet out here that we're into their stuff, they're into our stuff. We put together shows and we do it. And I feel like that a lot of the musicians who I talk to in New York and LA don't necessarily have that the same way, where it's more competition than kind of
collaboration.
Yeah. You grow up together, you play the same venues, and band that's a little older will put you on as the opener. You get to know guys.
Really
really well.
I'm sure that exists to some extent in other cities like New York or LA, but like it's also nice. I feel like we are just recently sort of finding a home and a community within all these people who are moving out to the East Bay. Like sort of rapidly being exiled to the East Bay, and we're finding there's like a ton of people who are living on a shoestring because they want to be making music, and it's like. I didn't even notice that culture so much existing in San Francisco when I moved out here 5 years ago, but like there's something that's really building with all these people out there in like Oakland who are sort of bonding together over that like desire to make art and not having to like worry about making enough to pay like $1,500 a month in rent, so they like can have that kind of lifestyle. And that's definitely growing, and we're sort of psyched to see that developing.
We still play most of our shows in San Francisco, though.
Right.
Favorite venues.
Yeah. No, it's a difficult thing that we have talked about quite a lot on this podcast already. Is the gentrification issue and the way that it affects the musical world as well as the artistic world of what happens when artists start getting priced out of a city known for its culture. And now, we have Oakland that is close enough that people can live over there and still, apply their trade in San Francisco, so to speak. But if there wasn't an Oakland, then what would happen to the culture?
We're moving to Fremont, man.
Daly City, baby.
Cutting edge.
Cutting edge.
I don't know, man. That's such an interesting question because, like, I feel like there's like a sort of spiritual draw to the Bay Area, like there's this history that exists here that like I feel like would have brought us out here even if we'd known that it was expensive. There's still some sort of allure that happens from like all over the country where people like want to be in this area. So like people are sort of striving to make it something, but to what extent, like who would those artistic creative types be if it was only people who could afford to live in that place? That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I see it positive.
Okay.
Really. If everyone is getting priced out of San Francisco, then everyone will create a new community in Oakland, in the Telegraph area. Like a lot of places are actually doing great because of it, because all the artists are coming together in a lot of places.
Yeah.
San Francisco is going to be whatever, tech guys and suit-wearing guys.
That'll blow up in a couple years.
It'll
anyway,
blow up
right?
in a couple years anyways, but if that means all the artists get to live together and share that common thread of their life, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be, if you wanted to make it, it could be a positive thing. It means that the bars in those areas, the venues in those areas, the coffee shops in those areas are going to be hotbeds of discourse, of good music. It's just the way you look at it. A lot of people want to say technology in San Francisco is killing the city, but it's creating new life other places.
Well, we're seeing it too already in Oakland. Like Leo's is about to open,
Right. Yeah.
and that I bet
We're
will be
excited
like
about
a
that.
It's gonna
great
be
spot
awesome.
to be.
Temescal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nate and I live like 5 minutes away from that, so that'll be kind of
Well, less than 5. Well, like 5 minutes maybe walking.
walking.
We
Yeah,
lives.
a couple blocks away.
We used to go to Leo's back in
Yeah,
the day and they had
pro audience.
real pro gear. It was sweet, and knowing that a music venue is coming in next door
Yeah.
is super exciting.
Well, there was a spot over there.
Back in the day, that's
yeah,
right.
I can't remember what it was called right now, but it was actually a pretty cool venue for a while. But it just kind of disappeared. It's in. There's like a all brick building, like a few doors down, and that used to be a venue for a lot of underground shows.
That's right. I was just my buddy Ash, who plays in this band Ghost in the City, was just telling me all about
Yeah.
that. This band, The Matches, used to play there
Oh
all the
yeah,
time.
for sure.
We were just talking about that in the same context, and I know that there are like a couple other, there's a rehearsal space there. There's a recording studio back there still, in one of those buildings. So yeah, there's definitely still something happening.
There's a
in that
chicken
area.
spot over there too, right? Bake sale.
Right.
Bake
The
Sale
Bake
Betty.
Sale
Bake
Betty.
Sale.
That place is the
right,
best.
right.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Although
yeah.
that fits into this conversation.
Oh,
of
yeah.
That's right,
change.
yeah.
Yeah.
Greg, I'm gonna let take the floor on this one. He's our
Let's hear it.
resident chicken expert
Okay.
in the band.
All I'll say is that I went there and it's different. They changed it. They changed the
Oh
sandwich.
really?
Yeah.
It's a
Wait,
bit more
really?
gourmet. It got
They
smaller.
tried to make it more gourmet. They
Interesting.
made it smaller. The bread's not as good.
I will call them artists though, because they're not making it easy on their customers.
Yeah.
They sell a certain amount of sandwiches every day,
Yeah.
and they won't sacrifice. The only thing they answer to is quality of their
Dude,
sandwiches.
it's like the Yeezus.
So you gotta kind of.
I disagree with
It's
that,
true.
man. They took it one step too far.
Mm.
They like went electric, man. It was like Bob Dylan. Going, they went. Well, I know that was kind of cool, but Judas, they went too far, man. The bread, they really did. I don't even know what to tell you
I
guys.
stand with them.
All I will say, I have had this chicken sandwich, and it was, it was okay. It's not my favorite fried chicken sandwich, but
What's your
I
favorite
will
fried
say-
chicken sandwich?
well, we can get to that.
Oh, we're on it now, man. We're talking about it.
I actually don't have a favorite fried chicken sandwich because I just like fried chicken.
Yeah, me too.
I like
That's good.
Chinese fried chicken is my favorite fried chicken. I gotta say, salt and pepper
Yeah.
chicken wings. That's
Very
the shit.
nuanced answer.
Or santung, if you've ever been
That's
to
what I was gonna
santung.
ask about, man. I haven't had that, but I hear it's
No,
the
what is
best.
Santung?
Santung
like the
is
sunset.
it's on Irving, by the park, like I think around 11th and 12th on Irving. It's fucking the best dry fried chicken wings you will ever have
I
in
like
your
the sound
life.
of that.
Cool.
Everybody has to have it. Just order them to go, pick them up because you'll never get inside. There's always a huge crowd outside. But back to Bake Sale Betty's, I will say that
Get back to the important
on
stuff.
topic here, guys.
there's something to be said for somebody that I'm gonna open, I'm gonna sell what I have, and then I'm gonna fucking close.
Yeah,
That's a bad motherfucker right there. That's like
it's true.
Oh, they sell sandwiches until they don't have any more sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when they close the door.
it's like I'm not gonna change what I do. I'm not gonna be open certain hours. I'm just gonna do what the fuck I want to do.
No sign.
Yeah, no sign,
They're artists.
written with a marker. You know,
You know
I
where
will
I'm
say-
at.
What
You
would
can
be like
find me. You smell the chicken.
the band equivalent of that, I guess, would be like playing like for 6 hours straight, and it's like by the end you're playing to like one person, you're just rocking their face off, and like you're not done until they leave.
yeah.
And then you don't play again for 6 months. You missed the last show? Oh, we're playing again in September. You should come out.
Well,
Keep 'em
are
waiting.
there any musicians who use that model? Because it sort of seems like, with the internet and
Yeah.
always being releasing shit and maintaining a presence. So much about music is promotion, obviously, but these places their whole deal, and what excites people is that they're like, I guess it's like an underground restaurant or something. No menu, no sign. Maybe we should start playing shows under no name.
Yeah.
Show up at mysterious places.
It's like the minimal, experimental fried chicken sandwich place.
Yeah.
It's just blowing up on Twitter. It's totally trending right now.
Chicken grease. That's the guitar style, right?
This guy named Guy Fawkes, he has a great band behind him.
The Guy Fawkes Band. So when you guys moved out here, did you move to the East Bay? Those of you that are in the East Bay, or did you move to San Francisco and then migrate?
I think we're 2 and 2, right? Because Charlie and Pete both moved to the city first, and then Nate and I more quickly realized that we couldn't afford to live there, and we moved to North Oakland, which is where we stayed
Nearly
this whole
6
time.
years ago, yeah.
Well, and you guys lucked out too, because you sort of just chose a spot based on like a cheap apartment you could get, and now you're kind of in like a hip area.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of your neighbors, are having shows. We played, an outdoor barbecue. Saw your neighbors that turned into, a big dance party.
That's cool with like the Balkan brass band.
With
That
the
was-
Balkan brass band.
Yeah,
That was
sick.
pretty cool. We played we played a show in our neighbor's backyard on Telegraph Ave, around 60th. And the highlight of the show was a Balkan brass band that started after we finished playing. And they just cruised down Telegraph for 3 or 4 blocks and just led the way to the next house party.
They were just marching.
That's awesome.
There's 40 of us just following them down Telegraph, and then they just kind of peeled off on one of those 58th or 59th or something, and then just
Right into the living room.
right into the living
Yeah.
room. The concert kept going for another 2 hours. That was a good.
People
one.
were like doing the circle dance in the living room, like 2 circles revolving around each other. That was insane.
Luckily, the guys that owned the house had removed all the furniture.
Yeah.
So there was no obstructions. You could do the circle dance.
Dude, you guys didn't catch it. So we're doing this thing in April called Undercover Presents, which is they pick like a famous album and they have each track is played by a different band. And
Oh,
they
cool.
we recorded an album where each band records their track, and then the show each band plays it sort of in the order it is, and then they have like a DJ in between. But we went to the listening party the other night, and there's one Balkan brass band that's doing one of the tunes.
No
They're doing,
way. Which one?
Boy in the Bubble. I think it's Boy in the Bubble.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
the first track on Graceland. That's
Yeah.
Boy in the
Oh,
Bubble, right?
really?
It's gonna be
Yeah.
cool,
Something
man.
Zamboleta.
Fanfare Zamboletta. Yeah, that's right.
I think they were at all like the Occupy rallies,
Oh,
if I
cool.
remember correctly.
That sounds right.
I was more just sticking right by them through that whole scene. I was like, I'm getting near this band, like
Yeah.
I'm here for the music.
such good street music. Just those blasting horns, pre-amplification. Those guys can get real loud outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is something that's kind of innately powerful about horns, which is something that I really enjoy. And we found that, I guess you kind of always realize that in an age when it's like all about synths and like kind of like reverbed out guitar tones or whatever,
Yeah.
like there's something about like a horn that will kind of like get people going. Like,
It's a battle cry.
yeah. So I don't know, like we went on tour and like, I know when we play around here, we tend to try to do like, 2 horns at a time. So like I'll play a baritone saxophone, we'll have trumpet together, and it's kind of like this, and like the Budos band is like kind of the sound, I guess, what it kind of sounds like.
Yeah.
But on tour it's just the 4 of us. And I'm the horn players. But I'd say like pretty much every show, like, you'd like wait a while, and like they'd be like, "Why don't you guys like, oh, we got a saxophone over there?" Play the so they're like already like kind of amped about the saxophone.
Circling it.
They're like kind of like posted by the sax guy, and then like you start playing the sax, they're like the saxophone.
The longer you wait.
And like you do it like once, and you like just like tease it a little bit, and by the end they're like, "Play the saxophone!" And you pick it up, they're like, "No!"
Every show there's this reaction. I want to like ignore it, pretending like the sax doesn't have that power, but
It does.
every damn time they come in, people are
Not
like,
the
He's
whole
like,
crowd.
oh, the synth just finally hit the people.
Not the whole crowd, but
I'll
at
have my
least
day.
like at least 2 or 3 people in every show.
Yeah.
Someone
That's the bass
was
drop, dude.
someone was always super amped on a saxophone. Even if I didn't even play it that well, it could have been the cheesiest shit you've ever heard. And we had that again.
Oh
We
my
played
god. We played at a show like 2 nights ago. We played it's like in an old winery in Bayview. I guess it used to be a winery and it was like abandoned and then bought up. And now it's like this big sort of sweeping garden that's like fenced in and kind of hidden in like
That was so cool. That
in
was
like
such
a
a pleasant
really
surprise.
sketchy part of Bayview.
But it's-
Yeah, I'm like,
walk in
I live
and-
in Bayview. I've never seen
Yeah.
this place you're talking
It's
about.
like a warehouse in the sense that it has concrete floors
And like,
and like the
tall
wood
ceilings.
ceilings with the slats across. But they made it into like there's like Buddhas. There's really cool, just like a vibey. When you walk in, there's like it's not like a warehouse. They made it feel like home in a very cool way. And then you go outside and there's this huge garden and this
Huge fire pit around the
huge
back.
fire pit. It
was
used to be a
some-
wine.
We're good. We're trying to
should,
we're
we'll
talking
let
with
you
these
know about
guys
it.
about
Yeah.
That sounds badass.
Is it
Something
purple?
regular.
Is the structure like kind of purplish?
Yeah, it's like bluish lavender kind of.
Okay, that's like
There are
a
a
block
lot of
from my
cats.
house.
You
I
know
have
what
seen
it is. It's
Yeah.
on
lots of
Lots
cats.
of
Just
cats.
up- just
Ingalls
up the
Street?
hill.
Ingalls Street. I
Ingalls Street is what it's on.
No, apparently there's more than one big
Okay.
blue structure.
Well, so we're playing the show there, and it was like the night after we just played Bottom of the Hill, and that was like a big, like really amped up show. And so then this one was sort of like a mellow thing. I'd say there were like 30, 40 people,
40.
More than that, but
maybe
yeah,
more
yeah.
than that, but it was like pretty mellow and in this and everything, and it was like a boomy room, so everything had to be played kind of a little bit quieter. And we're playing our tune San Francisco. That's like kind of it's like a bit of like a crooner ballad, like it's still got a groove to it, but it's like a little bit mellow. And we decided to like stretch out for this show and sort of like take some risks and like jam it out a little bit. And we get to the end of the tune where there's usually like a solo going on, and I just call to Greg and I'm like,
light
Greg,
bulb just
I'm
went
like,
on. and he
I'm like
said-
playing drums. I'm like, Greg, grab the saxophone. And Greg's like,
Me and Nate just look at each other like, oh.
and like Greg's like,
It was too
"All right."
major.
And he picks it up
For a
and he picks it
tenor
up and
saxophone.
he starts like saxing all over it. And, then, and we realize like partway through like it's just so Kenny G. Yeah. Tenor saxophone over like this
Major.
dude.
I was trying so hard not to do that. It was all I could do.
Oh, you guys haven't asked a question in a while. You got
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I
We've
like
been
it.
rambling.
I
Talking
actually
shit on
prefer
each other.
rambling. That's my preferred podcasting style is rambling. And when I'm left to my own devices, I just ramble. So it's good that you guys ramble because you're probably more interesting than I am.
Not the
We,
same.
if we were, then we'd have our own radio show.
Oh,
All you
shit.
got to do is make it happen, man. nobody picked me to do this. For
You're very interesting.
So what has how has moving to the Bay Area defined your sound? I'm guessing that you played somewhat similar music back in your college days, but has it changed since you've moved out here?
It's changed a lot.
A
A lot
lot.
has changed, man. I mean,
A lot.
if we, it's a great question because I think about a lot. Like if we had stayed in Maine and played around there, I think like, oh, what type of music would we be playing? And I think one thing is that, I mean, we moved to a much bigger city than where we were at, and our college experience was awesome, but it was possibly a bit isolated. That had its good because we were like, okay, we're a house party band. We need to
Yeah.
crush the energy, and we learned how to do that with a bunch of drunk college kids.
Mm-hmm.
But then coming out here, it was sort of more we were like in this big sea and this big question, where do we fit in artistically? Also hearing lots of contemporary music that was inspiring. And at first, you hear something that's new and fresh and is really good, and there's something intimidating about that. So I think we've sort of been trying to like bridge where we've come from with the different stuff that we hear in San Francisco. I don't know if you guys want to hear about, what you've heard that's inspiring, but
Yeah, and I think it's been a very gradual thing, and sometimes when I'm kind of thinking about like how we've kind of progressed as artists and stuff, I'm like, well, are we that much better than we were then, and like how are we different? And I actually ended up stumbling across a video of us performing in like 2009 or something. It was a band that just Nate and I were in, and I can definitely say that we are on a completely different level. And that's all I'm gonna say. It was really just horrible. It was terrible. Listening back, like obviously technique wise we were fine, but just like pretty, execution and stuff. I don't know, but I think it is interesting, and I think a lot of it has been related because we've always been good at the live thing. I think that's always been a strong suit of ours, but over the past couple of years, and we've been talking about this tonight even before we got on this podcast and started talking about, was just our approach to recording and how that's changed our at least personally, I can definitely say it's really changed my mindset of how music works. And when you're kind of trying to convey something to somebody, that it's not like the context is so important in music. If there's a keg around and some girl you're trying to impress or some girl you're trying to dance with, or like all this stuff that's happening, and you can kind of be like hitting it really hard all the time, and you're kind of crushing it, and that's great, and you're playing this music that's super dancey and in the groove. Like, that's cool, but we've kind of realized that there's a lot more to it than that, and kind of taking a step back and realizing, all right, well, maybe someone's experience with this is going to be them listening to it with a pair of headphones in their room. And that context is so utterly different that you really do need a different kind of medium, different ways to kind of draw people in, I think, And I think we realized that over a period of time that, recording a song the way that it sounds live with certain styles of music really has a lot of benefits, and that's awesome. If you're in a jazz band,
unless you're the Rolling Stones or maybe jazz.
Yeah, I mean, in certain styles, it totally makes sense. Yeah, just throw up some microphones, like let them do their thing. That's music.
Yeah.
But we've realized, especially now, and the style of music that we're operating in, and where we've ended up in, where we wanted to go, that's not how it is done. You listen to like for what maybe is like the pinnacle of like like that stuff, like Radiohead or something like that, where it's just those guys have been working on that recording for so long with these state-of-the-art shit, and people like expect that now too. You know what I mean? It's not like implicitly they don't know it, but they expect a level of production and intensity and sincerity that is really really intense.
Well, but it's cool too, because then you have this thing where you're simultaneously working on like your recorded sound and your live sound, and they kind of inform each other. It's like you create this piece of music live with each other, and then you bring it into a studio and it like morphs and changes because you're trying to reconstruct it in a way that comes across in a recorded format. And then you might make a piece of music that can't be replicated live the way that you are playing,
Yeah.
And so then you have to sort of like reinvent the recording back into a piece of live music. So it's like a really cool procedure where you have to keep sort of reinventing the way that you're playing the same song. And I think like your question was about sort of the Bay Area, but I don't know, it's interesting. I feel like nowadays, like, location almost has less to do with your sound than anything, because like you're hearing music from all, like you can listen to like Ghanaian high life funk from like the 70s, and like at the click of a button. And so like it's a lot less to do with geography, and it's a lot more to do with like who you're hanging out with and what you're hearing. And so like I don't really know that I could say that there is like a San Francisco sound right now as opposed to like a New York sound or something like that. I feel like it's just like where you get a good creative group of people who are playing off each other and challenging each other to like push the boundaries. And I think that the Bay Area really, especially in the past few years, has been like really developing that. And I don't think that it's a specific sound so much as it is just like a like-minded group of people who are trying to do something new.
Yeah, I love that. But I also feel like location, the experience, influences the art that you create
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And I think that we would all say that when we're in Maine or when we're in the East Coast, in Connecticut or DC, it would be a different experience than being out in San Francisco. And I think that being in San Francisco, we've all been on the same page. In Oakland, we've all had the same kind of experiences where we are creating something that was inquisitive and open and exploratory and doing something that's really neat. And I think that that's changed.
And I think it is, yeah. I think it is like, yeah. Sometimes it is because you see a group that raises the bar. You know, you listen to like a band like The Session, who are based out of like the East Bay, and they're so awesome. We played a show with them. It's like, oh shit, okay, like we've got to raise our game right now. Like, those guys are sick, and it's the same thing. You know, you see, friends of ours like Dreams, Bell's Atlas. I think is another one that I think are super cool. You know, and I guess they are all kind of part of this kind of the same thing, which is. It's kind of same generation, kind of I think sharing a lot of the same influences, and I think we are a little different from each of those bands because we still kind of have a bit more of a kind of like
straight up party vibe.
Straight party vibe
is what we're going for.
You know, and I think we have embraced more of like a party side of it, and also but we're also like kind of getting into the more. Because I really do see those bands as artists. I really do think that they are kind of like the soundscapes that they're creating and stuff. It's always like so beautiful and interesting. And I think our live show tends to be a bit more raucous.
We're just like constantly trying to bring it. Generally, most of our songs like kind of look like that. You know what I mean? We're like, oh, I'm gonna kill this.
We're on radio. You gotta explain that.
No, there's video.
We're on video, dude.
I think we need to.
Right there, bro.
You haven't known? Try to fix your hair, dude. We just try and I think a lot of times when we play live, we just like try and push everything to its breaking point. A lot of times.
So how is like incorporating those bands changed your music? Like, isn't Leyland on one of your? I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but isn't she on one of your
tracks?
tracks?
Yes, La Lin. We were calling it Leyland for a minute too.
Oh shit.
Man, but I don't know. The Session's an interesting one just because they do bring it really hard. But they didn't always, They had like a real sort of neo-soul mellow vibe for a while. And then in this just like past album and past like year of playing, they've just like turned into like electronic dance music soul, full force.
No, they're killing it for the record, everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody go definitely check out The Session.
Have you heard of La Lin?
Yeah, she came on
San
the record,
Francisco.
and that was really cool that she did that, and she did such a great job. And I think it is true that I think being around those bands where you kind of realize that they're creating these beautiful recordings and these their use of synthesizers and stuff. And it wasn't just them, but I think that did kind of influence kind of our approach to things. Where it's like, okay, maybe, or even like the use of kind of like drum loops or drum machines, which I think, one of our most recent single, "The Good Life," we use that as kind of like a building block of one of our tracks, is just something to try really more than anything. That I think we found that that song "San Francisco" that we recorded was a drum loop, and that's never how we'd played it. And it kind of does get into like I'm not sure how much we want to talk about this, but just like our creative process where we've really tried to kind of switch things up and be more, just kind of challenge ourselves and think that maybe like add in one or two elements like from the very beginning of like kind of like disrupt our regular flow,
right?
So that we can't just play something like we would live, and it's not just going to be like some kind of copy of that. We went into to make that song "San Francisco," and we started by making a drum loop, and there's just three of us playing, just kind of like playing percussion stuff, and we played for like 4 minutes, and we just found 4 bars that we really liked, and we just looped that, and that's the entire backbone of the song. And we just kind of re-recorded everything on top of that. It was like a backing track of just drums, and then we recorded on top of it. And these kind of different ideas, and I think it is. I think hearing other bands like that, that we would like to consider peers, like that we're hopefully around their level, and saying like, all right, these guys are doing really cool stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we can do that too, right? Like, we're good enough to do that. I hope.
And it's not like a competitive thing. It's like
It's more inspirational.
We're like taking the same BART line. We're living with these guys. Like, this is cool. This is kind of the sounds of our area, of our time. Like, let's understand what they do and do what we do, and like make it all sound better.
So an interesting question to touch upon is, we've talked a lot about gentrification on this podcast and the effects of it. And one of the things, I'm originally from LA, and I moved to the Bay Area in '99. So I pretty much lived in big cities my whole life. So it's the concept of like moving to a big city from someplace that doesn't have its own, like, you know, scenes and all this stuff is something that's kind of foreign to me. And the side of me that like tries to figure everything out is always wondering, well, couldn't this happen in other places? If people didn't migrate to cities, would they be able to build up their own scene in that area? But you guys bring up a good point that one of the things that progresses things and builds things into and takes it to the next level is having that back and forth with other like-minded artists that, you know, you might not have in a city that doesn't have as many bands. So do you think that you guys would have been able to get where you are not ever coming to the Bay Area? Do you think you would have reached the same, you know, levels that you guys are playing at right now?
I feel like that should be a topic for a song. The different lives that you can live.
Yeah.
You know, it could head in a lot of directions.
It's something we ask ourselves that all the time. Like, what would happen if we were on the East Coast right now? Because we have a lot. You know, we went on tour this summer, and we went over there. And we played shows in Boston and New York and DC, and they all went really well. But I'll let you keep going. You know, but it's really interesting.
Well, I think that in the culture that we live in today, we're constantly flooded with images and sounds and just bombarded. So that idea, I think that we are so much influenced with what's around us. I think that if you're in a place where you don't have all these things around you, that like it's possible that like your truest voice possibly might come out more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have an artist friend who sort of talks about that, just like getting yourself in isolation and figuring out your own voice. So if you're a musician and you create, maybe don't listen to that much music and see what comes out. But I guess to answer your original question, yeah, I think we would sound much different if we had stayed in Maine.
I think we'd be a lot jammier, I bet. I think we'd probably would have stayed with a lot of that.
Yeah,
somehow.
I mean, we still like have to curtail our jammy tendencies, you know, which I think is a nice thing. Like, I'd prefer to be like have jammy tendencies and hold them back than be a jam band who's trying to act electronic or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I guess it's like, you know, we don't have as many, like, we do have solos, you know what I mean? If it's a guitar solo, if it's a horn solo. But I think
Bass solo.
more so these days, we just try and, like,
Nobody
work
loves a bass
together, you know, working together as a group. And, you know, sometimes Greg and I playing guitar, you know, he'll play a lick and I'll kind of harmonize it. And we'll sort of move slowly with it instead of sort of like the older rock mentality of just like, I'm going to fuck your face with this guitar solo.
And it's funny, like, man, I've thought about that. Like, there was definitely a time where, for me, like, that was like the ultimate form of musicianship, was just like, all right, like we're through with the chorus. Like, it's time for me to fucking
shred,
rip right now. Like, I'm
Guy
gonna
Waters
unleash,
band.
I'm gonna unleash on everyone. And I was talking about that older recording I found. I was like, I was just going off, and it was looking back, it sounded really obnoxious to me. And, you know, like, talking about like our development and stuff like that, I think it is really cool. Like, where it's like, that's a guitar solo, and like, yeah, you know what, you played a really cool lick there, but it's still just a guitar solo. And the kind of way that we've been approaching things is like, all right, how do we like, make music as a group that's interesting, and like, what section comes now, like what kind of different, what kind of momentum shift happens here. It's not just me going from bending a long note to playing triplets. It's more. It's more than that. It's a collective together. That there's an exciting, like, there's a different chord, or there's a new sonic thing that happens. It's not just about like musicianship. Even though that plays a part, and we can use that. We can use our musicianship to harness something else, and like, but it's not necessarily technically difficult to play, but it's exciting still as a listener. And also for us, because it's you're touching some kind of different energy that comes into a song.
Well, and we still come from, I feel like, this background of improvisation, like, so a lot of our rehearsal time is spent just like experimenting off the cuff and like playing something and then trying to see how we can stretch it in as many different directions as possible. And then sort of catch those moments where it's like, oh, that shit was cool. Like, nobody expected it to go that way, but that's sort of like an interesting piece, And it's not maybe so, like, literally orchestrated or arranged as it is, like, we'll take an idea and we'll riff on it and we'll sort of let it develop and grow, and then we'll harness the best, sort of call the best pieces of that and create something out of it. And I feel like that's where, like, the sort of East Coast jam sensibility has helped us. But I think we're taking it in kind of a different direction.
Yeah, it was an interesting question, because you asked us if being out here really defines our sound. And I would say no. I mean, I think that being out here helps us expose us to a lot of really great bands, but like, we all have our different backgrounds, and they're all a very diverse, different kind of backgrounds in terms of the music that we've listened to, the music that we've played. And we all came out here because of the music that was out here. Because the culture that was out here, because of all those things. But I think that if we were all together and, another place, that we'd all have those same kind of feelings. We'd all have those same kind of thoughts, that we'd want to play together and have a really cool band. And maybe it would be different in a lot of different ways, but I think it would be very similar in a lot of similar ways, in the sense that it would be about the same core values, which is, playing songs that people want to like dance to, listen to, playing good things that people feel. Nothing about ego, nothing about a lot of what other bands are doing. So
So in terms of growth, like, other than just your own growth, like your sound, but also with an audience, how focused are you in growing your fan base? Does that just happen naturally? Do you find that you cater your sound to a certain group of people, or?
That's a good question.
I don't think we have. I don't think that we really do.
No, I mean, we started. It's funny because, like, we talked about our origins on the East Coast as like a party band, and that's basically how we started out here. Is we like started this band, and we decided, instead of just trying to book a bunch of like really shitty club gigs, that we would play a bunch of house parties first, and like get our friends to come out and bring their friends. And then sort of bit by bit, like, that audience started growing to the point where then we could book stuff at, like, what were some of our first shows? I don't remember.
The Laundromat?
Yeah, I mean, we did a Brainwash thing, but we had played,
I don't know, like Bottom
The
of the
Common.
Hill.
Yeah, I mean, like Bottom of the Hill and stuff like that. And by the time we sort of reached the point where we were booking those larger shows, we sort of had an established fan base from that. And,
we're lucky, man. We got good friends. And
yeah,
it's just
I'd say
from
that's
there.
the best. That's the biggest
And
part.
We're lucky.
Good friends
It's a
that
little
throw good
energy in our
parties.
audience. It's
Yeah,
good.
and then to answer your question, we're definitely we want as many people as possible to hear our music, and we're really, that's what excites us, is the fact that we played a show the other weekend, and that there were all these people at our show that we didn't know who were singing along with our music, and it's because they had just caught us at a different show. With that Great American thing, and that had happened like totally organically.
That's
and
nothing better than that.
And that's like, that's super exciting, and it's amazing. We're really lucky. We do have like a core group of friends here that have pretty much just like always rallied really hard. Once a month they come out and party with us, and that makes the venues like us, and that makes the other people in the audience like, kind of like more comfortable and kind of more, open to kind of getting down. If they see, if there's 40 people who are already like way into it, they're gonna, it's easier for you to dance, because everyone's been to a show where you're like into it and you look around and like everyone's like kind of being a pussy about shit. They're like not going for it. It's like this music kicks ass and you guys are just standing there right now. Like, come on, what's wrong with you?
Come on.
So I think we have been lucky that we have like, friends and they're also fans, that from a very early time like kind of helped like establish the vibe of like what we wanted to happen, and we're kind of down with that and dancing from the first tune.
Well, and I think like, our early crew here in the Bay Area are like pretty wild, and I think that's really helped us because it's like we have these people who came out and what they wanted was to be able to like while out at a show, and they're like acting like fools, and as they act like fools, it makes us sort of want to like fuel that flame, so we're like, how can we get them to get even weirder with
Stir
everything?
the pot,
and like then
Stir
how
the
can we
pot. Stir the pot.
sometimes it means one of us has to take our shirt off or like sing a country
On this podcast right now.
I don't know, I'm just saying, like, every
somehow
once in a while,
it's pretty
people feel like they just need to, like, get out there.
Remember, guys, you saw it here first.
And so,
This is not the first time.
He's a teacher too, folks. 3rd grade.
He's working with kids. Oh no.
Fireball Pete.
why'd you go and do that? So,
You have a clean cut hair, man. You look like you could sell me some nice artwork or something.
yeah. But it's good because as these people while out and they tell their friends, like, come out and we'll all get crazy, Like,
Yeah.
they've got that attitude. And so then we're trying to find new ways to make them freak out, and it sort of like builds upon itself. And I feel like I guess our goal was sort of to create this community of people, and I think bit by bit
That's
we're
how
doing
we.
that.
That's how we started. We were like, let's just play one good show, so our friends like us and want to come back. And then we played one fucking kick-ass show, and then they're like, brought their friends, and they're like, me and our friends are here, and we're gonna play one kick-ass show. And we played a kick-ass show, and so it just kind of organically spreads like that. Oh, it's exponential like that. When you just focus so much on this, making sure that you play good music and that everyone out there is having a good time. That's how we started, We were playing house parties, we were playing good things. And then when we played Bottom of the Hill, headline Bottom of the Hill the other weekend. And we have a lot of responsibilities. You got to have a draw, you got to have a lot of other things. But at the end of the day, like, we just want to make sure that people out there are dancing, having a good time. We're keeping it interesting, playing good songs, dancey songs, but also keeping it fresh. And those are, we came from the kind of thing where 50 people came to a gig, we'd be amped up about it. And now we're just like the same thing. Just dance party, fucking have a great
And
time.
I feel like we've talked about this before, not here, but in like another radio interview we did. But it's like,
Shirt's going back.
Shirt's coming back on.
well, we're waxing philosophical. You can't do that with your shirt off, I guess.
You can.
So
I think all the Greeks did.
Yeah, I was about to say Plato.
It's on a sheet.
no, but like you definitely see some bands where it's this thing of like, oh, we're artists. Like, come and observe our art, and it's like they have this attitude of like, the music's up on this pedestal and that the audience is coming there to check it out. And I think our thing has always been much more of like trying to get that give and take with the audience. It's like we're trying. It's like we sort of are one foot in each camp. It's like on one hand we want to do stuff that we think is like artistically interesting and fun for us, but then the other foot is in this camp of like, how can we make these people while out, because then they'll fuel us, So I think
Because that give and take is so important. If you're, I feel there's every band has played a bad show before, and it sucks. Like when you're kind of like you're playing and there aren't a lot of people out there, and like it's not registering, and you don't play well, because of that. And that's a fact. That does happen. And then on the other side of that, like if you can go out there feeling like you've already won, like feeling like people are already ready to have a good time, And that's what happened even at Great American. Like when the lights went down and we walked out there, like there was already 500 people out there at a sold out show just like ready to hear live music.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, this is going to be easy. Let's give them what they want.
Yeah.
And
catch people in the right mood.
Sometimes there is that kind of like transition period where like people are kind of like there and you need a little bit of foreplay and you get them excited and then then you're ready to bang. But, normally...
What he's talking about is like, oh, you're playing soprano saxophone.
Shirt on, shirt off.
Shirt on or shirt off. But, sometimes there is that middle zone, but really, that's what it comes down to is like, that the music is the best when you can feel this excitement in the crowd. Like that's, for me at a live show when you're like, that moment when you're waiting for this band to go on and you've been waiting for way too long and the lights drop and you're like, oh, like everyone just goes apeshit because they know it's about to happen. Like that's like that's almost the best moment of a concert for me, is when the band comes on at a big show like that. The lights are off, all these cameras are flashing, and it's just like, oh shit! Like everyone is stoked for what's about to happen. And then, as a musician on the other side of that, it's like, okay, like these people are so ready to rock. Like, let's do it.
Well, and it's all about like creating this sense of anything can happen, kind of is like the fun part for us, is like trying to create this, like throw enough curveballs in any big show that like it's not just sort of formulaic, like there'll be things that happen or like covers or like, some sort of theatrical thing where
Some shirts come off.
Some
a
shirts
shirt
come off.
maybe came off.
Where every
Kenny
show,
G
where every
solo,
show's different. I mean,
Mix it up.
yeah.
So how much do you guys focus on promoting yourselves in terms of like social media and stuff like that? Do you think that that it is necessary when you're building this kind of like ground level grassroots following? Do you still need social media?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. It's like it's the main way that we communicate about shows. Is that there's like a Facebook event or we send out an email or I don't know. I feel like Twitter we do it because I feel like we're supposed to. We're not really like
Don't
active.
really even mess with it.
Yeah.
It's like mainly just like reposts our Instagram stuff because
Yeah.
that's fun. And
Yeah. But Instagram and Facebook, I think that is pretty huge to
It
what
makes
we're
a
doing.
huge difference.
Because because I guess it's not like I feel like it sort of feels lame to me to be like, oh well, you're marketing your brand or some shit. But what happens is like you and it's not just us as a band, it's like us and our friends and like fans. Like we create this little community. And it's like the social media stuff in its best version is just a sort of reflection of what the attitude of that is. And so it's not even so much like shameless promotion as it is just sort of fun to carry that energy from a show into like this little realm where you can like check in and that you can sort of like get back in touch with that attitude and that feeling.
Pete does
when you
our
need it.
Instagram. He takes fun little photographs here and there.
Yeah.
And it shows that you're accessible to other people who like maybe did check out your show and liked it and like, oh yeah, look at that. Like they can go there and they can follow you. They know when your next show is. They know where they can listen to all your shit. Like that's important. It's like kind of the center of how you go about promoting your stuff. As far at least for me, that's how I feel. That's how we do 95% of our promotion. Like, you can throw up a bunch of flyers all over the place, and maybe that helps for name recognition in some kind of abstract sense, but I doubt, I honestly have severe doubts that, at least for an indie band, like us or whatever, that putting up a Guy Fawkes poster on every corner of the city, I'm not sure if that really helps you bring more people to your show. Maybe it does down the road if they keep on saying like, oh, Guy Fawkes, I've heard of them. Maybe that helps. But with other bands, my experience is that just like putting a bunch of flyers or, just like word of mouth, like that can be kind of good enough for some kind of things.
Well, word of mouth is.
Yeah,
Word of mouth.
But that's what it really comes down
What
to.
you really want is shares. The things that we get the most response to is when some of our fans share our links on their profiles. Is when you catch someone with either a picture or a song or something where they want to share it on their thing. It's be like, check out my buddies and Guy Fawkes. That's how you catch all these different people that are in a whole different network.
The problem is that like Facebook, it sounds like is starting to pull some bullshit. Isn't there something where
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, basically, there was a time when people would like you on Facebook, and it actually just meant that like, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That
They
it's
would
like,
see your
oh,
posts.
they would see your post. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I like this band because I want to find out what they're doing. But now,
Yeah.
like that doesn't even mean anything. It's like you have to spend money for anybody.
Are you guys
to see
promoting
it.
Yeah.
your posts?
You know, if we have
Sometimes.
big ones, like if we're releasing a new single, or maybe for like a big show we have, we'll do like a promoted post about it. I mean, it pisses me off to do it, but
Yeah.
it's a great promotional tool. So
And it's
Yeah.
crazy
The reason they're
when
doing
you
it is
look-
that they know they can. They know that it is our main way of getting to people. So yeah.
Yeah.
Will we pay $20 to get an extra 50 people to a show? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely we will.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to see that money back at the door. So yes, it's worth
What
it.
was that Onion headline? It was like, teens and preteens now have given up on Facebook and are now connecting via a deer video. on
yeah,
YouTube.
the comments thread of a deer running in slow motion video.
That's actually probably more true than
yeah, right?
than not true.
But it's crazy when you look at the total views of a post and you're like,
Yeah.
300, 300, 1,600.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh.
It's
And
like,
that costs
oh,
$20
it cost me,
All
yeah, or
right.
not even for like 600. It's like $5, and it's like, well, shit.
That's
okay,
the
yeah,
cost of
I'll
a
give you
fucking
my
latte,
$5.
man.
But it's annoying. I mean, but at the same time, I feel like it's got. I almost see it more like 50-50. It's like there's 50% like getting yourself, having a social media presence so that people sort of keep in touch, and then I think 50% I do believe is just like putting on a good enough show that people are going to tell their friends. Because if you're not doing that, then nobody's going to give a shit
sure.
about hearing about the posts that you give. You know. So, I guess I want to believe that the live performance has the most to do with what's going to keep people coming out. And I think that we've seen that just in the past couple of months, like with these shows we've done and more people coming back out. But
I definitely believe that.
I think it's 100%
As far
that.
as the experience
Doesn't matter how
of
much-
the show, if you got great recorded music, people are always going to be coming out. You know, if you put on a great show, then that's going to bring people back. I think, yeah.
well, and then you have these
If you-
bands who like blow up over one single, but they don't have a live show to back it up, and that's just like irritating for everybody.
Management.
They just get eviscerated by the media or
Yeah,
whoever.
yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
kind of brutal. But then you can't help but feel kind of bad for them. It's like, well, they didn't even have a chance to get that part of their game together because
Yeah.
they were like instant stars overnight, and they didn't even have a chance to try to learn how to become a live band.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer for them.
So, do you guys have you gone on any national tours or anything yet?
We put one together ourselves last summer, and it was like 4 weeks, right?
5 weeks.
5 weeks, just around the country in like a 15-passenger van, and we organized the whole thing ourselves. And so it was like a total shit show. I mean, it was a blast. Like it was an amazing
It
trip.
was so fun, man.
It was like one of the best things I've done. But it was like definitely hit or miss. Like you're playing a show in like, you know, Columbus, Ohio.
We didn't play in Columbus.
Where did we play in Ohio?
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Ooh.
Playing in Cleveland, and it's like you fit.
A Sunday night in Cleveland.
And it was
I
still a
mean,
blast. Like Charlie couldn't come, so we had this other bass player, and the dude got slapped in the face by some girl that night. I mean, like it's always gonna be fun. No matter
Him. I don't even know the story, but I think it's probably
move on from that story. Though.
but it's like it's always gonna be fun doing something like that. But we sort of realized after that national tour, it's like unless we got picked up to tour with somebody, like opening
Right,
for
yeah.
somebody, there isn't like a whole lot of point right now in doing it that way because there's no reason to ever go back to Cleveland. You know,
How did you finance that tour? Did you
Rock
just-
and Roll Hall of Fame.
There was a Kickstarter.
Oh, cool.
it was
Yeah.
cool though. We did a Kickstarter and that paid for the van and paid for like some merchandise and stuff like that. And then we were able to make enough money through the shows that gas was all covered and a lot of food got covered.
Yeah, we broke
So-
even, and you know, because of our East Coast connects, I think there were a lot of shows on the East Coast that were totally worth doing. Mm-hmm. We had
Oh,
two.
yeah.
Oh, there were
For
great
sure.
Yeah, we had
shows.
2 awesome shows in Manhattan. A really good one in Boston. DC show was amazing. We
We
had
played at our old college.
played at our old college.
To lots
We
of
played
people, which was fun.
some shows. Some of the shows in Texas were super fun. Played some
Marfa,
really-
Texas is
Marfa?
a wild place.
What Texas?
Marfa, Texas. It's like this little weird artist community in like East Texas, just in the middle of the desert.
West Texas.
West Texas.
Grizzly,
And it was like
Grizzly Bear recorded an album there.
Huh.
it was cool. We were there and like there's a studio there, and it's like a tiny enough town that everybody knows everybody, but it's like all artists. So we showed up there and we played a show at this bar called the Lost Horse Saloon that's run by this guy Ty, who's like this grizzly cowboy with an eye patch. And just like
He was definitely
Nice.
the coolest guy we met on tour.
Yeah.
Easily.
and there was a guy who had happened to be at the show who, because he had nowhere else to go, who was like, yeah, I have a recording studio. So we recorded a live set the next day, and it's just like this bizarre little enclave. Their doctor's name is Jalapeno Schwartz, and we like ran. Well, I only know that.
Is he a
I
Mexican
only
Jew?
know that because like he was like at the bar we were at, and they were like, "Hey, jalapeno," and he like shakes his hand, and I was like, "Who the fuck is that?" He's like, "Well, that's the local doctor," and then he was just like ripping cigarettes, drinking beers.
Excellent doctor.
That's so good.
Russian.
That reminds me. Has anybody read the book? Oh, I'm gonna get it. There's in the book I'm thinking of, the brothers Karamazov.
Oh yeah.
There's a doctor in it named Dr. Herzentube. And like everybody in town is praising this Dr. Herzentube, the amazing Dr. Herzentube. He never makes an appearance in the book. I think it's like this big joke through the whole fucking thing. It's, dude, like, who is this Herzentube?
Yeah. The mythical
It's like,
jalapeno.
well, jalapeno Schwartz, dude. Oh, Herzentube, best in the biz.
No, we met
Zach
a lot
Fox's
of.
new album, Jalapeno Shorts. Out this fall.
That might be an NC-17 rating.
The tour was, there were great memories and some great shows, and it was totally worth it. And I think we're going to do it again this year. Probably a bit more like focused, like more targeted on the places that we really know we want to keep playing, and that'll keep our costs down. Even to fly out there, I think it'll
It'll be
be
a bummer.
worth it.
We rented John Vanderslice's van,
Yeah.
who owns Tiny Telephone Studios, and it was the best. It was like the Great White Whale. This thing is immaculately kept. If you ever met John Vanderslice, he's like the most immaculately kept man, probably.
He's very
A
specific.
man of fine taste.
He's focused.
He's
Yeah.
focused on the things that everything with JV. It's either like the best thing in the fucking world and shut up and listen about this, or it's a
Dog
joke.
shit.
It's dog shit.
It's
Do
fucking
not
horrible.
even look at that. Don't even talk about that. Like it's one or the other. And the van was very much in the former category of like things that he loved and took good care of. So
Yeah.
it was that was.
I mean,
that was
he's
cool.
right.
Thank you, JV.
He
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
right.
thanks,
JV.
JV.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that is for me one of the most unfortunate aspects of the new music culture is the death of the album. Do you guys think of your music in terms of albums, or do you think of it in terms of songs? Are you crafting like a grander vision, or are you focusing on
We were
you know?
just-
I think it'll
micro-
be
Yeah.
I think you'd get a different answer person to person.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. I was never the kid going to record shops. I don't.
And he's up. Yeah.
I don't. I don't hold much holy.
Oh yeah.
I don't really care about the form. Whatever it is, I want it to be fresh. Pete can say something else about it.
Yeah, I'm from a different camp. Like
He is.
I'm one of my favorite things in the world is like going into a record store and just perusing shit. And like it's like the experience where you go in and you don't know what you want, and you like you don't know what you want.
Shirt
and
on
you
and
spend
shirt
like
off. I think we know.
you spend like an hour in there like pulling things out and like making stacks and like categorizing what you want to buy, and then you like walk out with the Beverly Hillbillies greatest hits, and you're like, fuck, how did this happen? But it's like I love that shit, man. And but I think it's different between, like, I would love to release a full-length album that's cohesive and has like if not a theme to it, at least is like all of one piece and plays front to back as one whole piece of music. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us as a band to be doing that right now. I mean, I feel like we come up with songs all the time, we're recording all the time, and as soon as we get something that's out and is a great, and we like the quality of it, we want to get it out there. We want people to hear it.
Yeah, I know it's tough. I mean, it's something we kind of discuss internally quite a bit as far as, well, everyone just makes playlists now. So just get out singles, just get stuff out there, keep yourself relevant, keep on releasing stuff. And I think we're going to find a middle ground here. But yeah, personally, the way I listen to music, I love albums just as it's a snapshot. You get to see exactly where that group was at that exact time. And it's sometimes there's some filler and sometimes it's imperfect, but it's almost always consistent, and it's always like, a part of one piece of art. And that's what I really like about it, as opposed to just kind of listen to all these different pieces. And because if you kind of are chopping around and kind of putting together a playlist or whatever, you don't really quite get the full experience of who that band is. And I love listening to music that way. There are a couple of albums in the past couple of years that have come out that I've just been totally blown away by. That I don't know, like Grizzly Bear's Shields, I thought was fucking amazing.
The
Alt J record is like that. Hot Chip's most recent one, I guess it's still kind of old now. It's like in our heads or something like that. Yeah, that. I think those are all maybe like 2012, 2013. But there's something about like the album as a piece of art that I love still. And I don't know, maybe because we don't have label backing. We can't go into Tiny Telephone and record for 3 weeks and do that. We don't have that kind of money to spare. So we've been doing kind of a couple of days in the studio a month, and that's been really fun. But it has kind of led to, like work on a song, finish it, move on, work on a song, finish it. And maybe that does kind of lend itself more to singles, and that's kind of how we're going to be releasing stuff. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to put it on a full-length album, and that is how I like to listen to music personally still. Even though it seems like a lot of people are arguing that maybe that's not the future of music. I can't really make a case for either direction.
I think it always will be though, man. I mean, I feel like that'll always be a piece. It's like back in like the 60s, all the soul labels were just releasing singles, Like it wasn't until like Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, or like one of those early Stevie Wonder records where it was like a totally cohesive piece, or like Sgt. Pepper's, It was all singles back then. And that was just sort of the medium. And then they got into concept albums for a while, and I feel like now we're entering an era of singles again. But I think because the whole idea of like a concept album has existed, that people will always return to that as a form. And I think I don't think either one is the right or wrong way to release music. I think it's just two different ways of approaching it, and now we're used to both of them.
I like that idea, though, that you put on someone's record and you're like, all right, what do you got? And it's like, entertain me for an hour right now. Like, show me like an hour of good music, because that's a lot fucking harder to do than putting together one sweet pop song. You know what I mean? Like, that's like a real challenge. And I think that's where like you can separate like men from boys. Is like, all right, who's actually got like that kind of level of creativity that they can do that for that long. Yeah, I agree, man. I do.
How much do you guys think about the future, like where you want to go eventually? Do you have a plan? Do you guys talk about this internally? Like, eventually we want to do this, or?
Yeah, we do. We were talking about it this evening while we were, waiting to talk to you guys. We were getting drinks and talking about it. Yeah, I mean, personally, I want to keep going as far as we can go, and to have as many people listen to our music as possible. I want to be able to play everywhere, and I want to be able to play shows like we play here in the Bay, in any city in the States. That's my goal. Maybe, who knows? I mean, no. You want to dream big, like, sure, why not everywhere? But I think at least in the States. I think that's not an like, it's not crazy for where we are right now, that we could, play like fun shows to hundreds of people, in a bunch of big cities. That's what I want to be able to do. And if we can go bigger than that, fuck yeah, let's do it. But that for me, that's like the immediate goal over the next couple of years, is to make good enough recordings to reach that many people, and to have a good enough live show that everyone who's seen us wants to see us again. That's what I want to do.
What do you think, dude?
What was the question?
How much do you guys think about the future in terms of?
It's hard. not to. I don't. Well, I guess it comes from the desire. At this point in time, we're 27 years old. We're not kids anymore. I want to do something great in the next few years, and if I don't do that, I don't know how much longer I want to do it. So I guess we're after something serious. You know, I want to make something really good, and hopefully most bands who are around want that same thing. So I guess it is always like this thing, like you have this idea in your head of something great, and it's about hopefully like trying to capture something, and hopefully that thing that you put down might resonate with some people. But yeah, at this point in time, I want to make something really good. You know, something I'm really happy with. I don't know if that answers the question.
I think I feel the same way as these guys, although we all will say it in different ways. I want to make music that people listen to and say, yeah, that's good. Like, oh, yeah, that's good. That's what I want. And Waters wants to play it live, and Noodle wants to make people resonate their way. But I think we all just want to make something, a product that not only we're proud of, but makes people think and feel and get out there and want to see us, but I'll see other musics, see other things. I think that we're all fighting for the same goal.
Having said that, I kind of got like a little intense for a second. I think the cool thing about the cool thing about the future, though. I mean, but that's like that. I mean, that's like anxiety.
Yeah.
Is in worry comes from having your head in the future.
Yeah.
But I think the beauty about making music, and making music, and especially when you're playing with people, is that the future doesn't exist. You're in the fucking moment. I mean, that is the beauty. It like, if you're doing something, it puts you right there, and it doesn't matter.
Well,
so
and it's
that's
like
nice,
it's
but-
like of course we would want to see things continue to grow, but like the bottom line is that, especially in this sort of business, like there are no guarantees about how anything's going to go. And if we didn't love what we were doing, then we wouldn't be doing it at all, you know? So like really what it comes down to isn't like, yes, we're trying to push it as far as we can, but really day to day, we're just enjoying doing it in the moment. You know, we just want to like keep honing in on what we're doing and make what we're already doing better and better and better, so that hopefully more people will get on our, train.
So how do you feel about like the machine that some bands have behind them with their label and booking agents and all of that? Like,
I mean, I think that would be awesome. I mean,
Good for them.
Yeah.
yeah.
If they're
Awesome.
If they're good enough, like sometimes I hear bands that have that, and I think, okay, surprised they got that, but good for them,
Yeah.
And no resentment on my end, man. If they're doing it, if they can reach more people and do what they want to do, more power to them. That's awesome.
Yeah. Music is good.
As long as they're not compromising what they're trying to do, then they should. That's awesome.
I mean, I think at
they're
one point. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I'll finish it. If they're making something good and there are people that want to take it to the next level, that's great. There's nothing bad about that. We love organic music, good music. So
Well, and I think it seems to me like at one point the sort of end all goal was getting a major record label deal or something like that. And nowadays I feel like that doesn't even really make sense for a lot of bands. It like restricts them in so many ways, or doesn't actually allow them the freedom, and actually isn't really giving them even the financial backing that they need to do what they need to do. They're just sort of getting abused by this major label system that's crumbling. So it's sort of this like tricky area where I like growing up, to me that was sort of like the best. It's like, oh, you get signed to a label and then you're like set.
he's on a
But-
major.
Yeah, but like nowadays it is much more like you're not even going to get courted by a label unless you've done it all yourself already.
Yeah,
And if you've done it all yourself already at that point, then
You
like,
don't
why
need
do
the
you really
label.
need those
Yeah.
people?
You can
So-
promote it, you can create it, you can distribute it.
Yeah. I mean, I still think there's like definitely a value to hooking up with maybe some form of management if they're not total sleazeballs, or like a booking agent who actually has your best interest in mind. But you got to sort of be able to do that stuff yourself at this point too.
You did mention that that now artists have to kind of play multiple roles and sort of be the management and the promoter and the label and all this stuff. Do you guys feel that empowers you more to like own your music, or do you feel like if you had the support of other people, you would be able to, spend more time focusing on just the music?
I think it's undeniable that there is a lot of time that goes into doing the other stuff that maybe arguably could be spent making music. That's a fact. We can't avoid that. On the other, and a lot of the time I do, obviously you wish that you could just kind of like focus on making music and then people would just kind of show up to your shows and do all that stuff. But I don't know, that's not really how it works anymore.
I think it's undeniably great now with the internet because you can do all these things yourself and it takes time, but you can get more creative with it. It's not like you need to play one good show in front of some music executives that will sign you and pay, your 20 grand to record a record. You can do it yourself. You can do it in your basement on GarageBand or Pro Tools or Logic with your Fender guitar and, some shitty amps and shit. And you can make it sound good. And I think that's 100% giving power to like the musicians, to the smaller people that won't necessarily get recognized. And it's tough because you have to do a lot of other things yourself. But in the past, like only the 1% people got, picked up by these guys and looked up at these guys. I think the more that you can make it open book, the more that you can make anyone that wants to make something creative, give them a voice on the internet, give them a voice on on GarageBand or whatever, the better it will be.
Yeah, and you can let the fans decide what's good.
Let the fans decide, and
there is kind of this kind of weird like din of mediocrity as well, though. So it's like trying to get noticed. If you're trying to like send your stuff to, like a blog or whatever, it is probably trickier when they're getting kind of or even getting gigs a lot of the time, right?
Yeah,
right now,
gigs.
It's like we're trying to book a show at a place that we could fill up, but it's like. These guys get 100 emails a day because it's like, in a spot in between SF and LA. You're just like not even going to play there because there are plenty of guys who are, kind of trying to do this thing.
I mean, that's probably always been the case, but I guess in terms of booking, like everybody wants to play shows. But I think that like, there's almost no need for any new recorded music. It's like you could spend your entire life listening to everything that's been recorded already. Yeah. And so there's sometimes I sort of feel like hearing new bands is just like a little droplet of water, like how can you even do anything that's new and exciting? But it still does happen. It's just there's a lot of white noise out there. And I'm not saying that when there was like the system of major labels it was any better, that like it's just that you had when at that point it was like a label owner or like an A&R person telling you what was worth listening to. Now it's like Pitchfork is telling you what's worth listening to. Like it's just that blogs.
There are different kingmakers, as it were.
Yeah, I mean it is all sort of just the same thing. It's just that it's just I guess maybe part of the difference is that now you don't have this like major sort of granddaddy who's like throwing hunks of money at bands.
Well, they still are. I mean, there's certainly still the pop scene. And a lot of America listens to those Clear Channel records, right?
Yeah.
But there's just a voice for a lot of other people. But I'm surprised that you would say just being a drop in the ocean is a negative thing. I mean, just being a drop in the ocean means that you're part of the ocean. Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing.
But it is kind of funny. You see these blogs, and it's like they're literally they're just
you make something, you're part of something.
But they're regurgitating the same PR thing that somebody sent out to the same 50 blogs.
Right.
And they're literally just vomiting out. They're like pretending that it's their post. And they're just saying the exact same thing about the same band. It's like fake news. It's like some kind of like weird like BuzzFeed like list article or something where it's like
but
it's the same thing where it's like it's just like this kind of like content. It's like sometimes with that it's frustrating seeing that game being played too because it's just like someone came up with kind of like a decent narrative and that's more important than the music as well. But it makes sense, you need a good story.
Yeah,
like that is part of it, and that comes back to marketing. It's like we have to, as artists, we had to find a way to describe ourselves that's compelling when you scroll down like through something and all you see of us is like a picture of us and you read like 3 sentences about our band, like that has to mean something to you before you click on that link.
Right.
And that's challenging too, and it does kind of get, it's like we're not professional writers, like we're not PR people, but we have to learn how to do that.
Can we turn this around? These guys know a lot about us. Should we ask them to give us like a 2 or 3 sentence overview?
Yeah.
For your
About
press
band?
release
Yeah.
or something.
How about you guys
What
write
would
us a
you
press
guys
release
say?
right
What would you
now?
guys say about us? We're from Maine.
I don't know if you want that, dude. I don't know if you want that.
Yeah, we want that.
I've had a few beers.
Yeah. It takes time to craft that kind of magic, you know. But
Anyways, yeah, but it's true, man. It's a
You've
lot
got to
of
play
work
that game, and
beyond playing music.
it's a different game, and I'm not trying to complain about it.
Right,
It's just
yeah.
it's interesting that is kind of where it is. But that means but if you can play by those rules and if you make killer music, then you can do it. And
Right.
we've seen plenty of bands from this area doing that exact thing, and that's awesome. So there is an element of empowerment that's kind of come through, even if it's there's a lot of work to be done, and it might not really be the skill set you associate with the musician.
Yeah.
But, you can do it.
Right.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that was well said.
at what point does the pop music label structure become irrelevant, though? Because right now, the way I look at it is that the pop music scene, that what used to be the like mainstream of music worldwide, the major labels, radio stations, all the things that built the industry, are now essentially just propping up manufactured pop.
It's
that
on such
is-
another plane, man. It's on such another level.
Yeah,
You get like the breakdowns, like the guy from South Korea,
Psy.
PSY, and Macklemore that like
Yeah.
had huge success doing that. But otherwise, I mean, these guys, they find these young talents, they foster them, they put them in the rooms with guys that were doing Michael Jackson albums, and and then have the payola kind of relationships with these DJs that are just pushing it. But I'm sorry, I jumped in front of you guys.
No.
How dare you?
I mean, it pisses me off because I think about it a lot.
That's funny, dude,
No, I mean,
because it feels totally irrelevant to my
Yeah.
life, that whole question.
Right.
Yeah.
At what
I-
point do we abandon this, though? I mean, it's like
Have
right
you
now.
guys listen to top 40 rate? I mean, there's so few. Every once in a while, I was like, all right, that's a badass song. Like even
Yeah.
even like Rihanna or some stuff, I'll be like, all right, that's pretty killer.
Anything
Yeah,
Kanye. Anything Kanye.
Anything
Yeah,
Kanye?
yeah.
We're
Yeah,
with
you know,
but
I think
Kanye's not on the radio much.
I think we have abandoned it, but it's
I
still
think
gonna
it's-
exist
Or his new album.
for a lot of reasons. Because there's always going to be that market.
But it's funny. I mean, obviously, there's still a lot of money that's being made there, and and country music radio is still absolutely massive. Like,
That's
it's
true.
still-
But it's like pretty much like you flip through the radio and it's like mostly country stations. I feel like nowadays.
even in the Bay, which
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
still
Really?
tells you something.
yeah, it's just
I'm
like
not getting
tons
that.
of
Well,
pop.
maybe not in the
Well,
Bay, but like going around the country, man. We were out there. So much country music, and that's where all the CD sales are too. There's still money there, but I think you're right. As far as like mechanisms for how people hear new music now, I mean, and we've talked about how empowering it is, but then on the other side of it, you have to look at things like Spotify and say, well, actually, they're pretty
Right.
terrifying for artists like us. As far as
Yeah, it's horrible.
I mean, at
It
least
makes 12 cents.
financially, we make I think like 0.04 cents per stream. It's crazy how little small artists make, and like Tom York and Radiohead have boycotted Spotify for that reason, because they said, all right, we secured a decent percentage because we work with a major label, but but it's funny because we're totally willing to sign up for it because we just want people to listen to us.
Yeah, I mean
Right.
we.
But at the same time, that means that we've financed putting out an EP, which was not cheap, and we've done that out of like our own band funds.
A lot of times. Yeah.
And we are not seeing. We've probably paid for about like as far as like the recording costs, out of like 50,000 plays on Spotify, let's say. I think it's around that. I think we probably recouped about 10% of the album.
We've
of
had
our recording
30,
costs.
30K
But then-
on one song.
Yeah.
But then I always have to think of like what.
Would those
what-
people have bought an album at all? Would they even
Well,
have listened
no,
to us? the
but I
first
mean, I
time,
guess
or-
I guess my question is like, why do musicians deserve money for creating art? Do artists deserve money?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
I think we're getting back to the same thing here.
What the
Yeah.
fuck are you
If
talking
you're,
about, Peter?
why would you? Would
mean-
you rather make nothing on an album, doing a whole album, if you could sell out 10 shows, 15 shows, and for a long time, that's how artists made money. I mean, that's how all these artists that now
Yeah.
are making money, they're losing money to the producers, to the managers, to everyone. They're making cents on the dollar.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only way to make money these days, it
touring.
seems, is touring and merchandise.
So
Yeah.
if we have a good album that people
Hand
want
them
to
your
come
By the
phone
way,
to open a beer.
Greg is using an iPhone to open a beer right now.
How's that going to work out?
And it's
Oh.
Sorry, we're in the same band.
It does work.
We're in a Queen cover band. We're really good.
No, but I mean, my question came off as insensitive, but I mean, like, a band of our level, like, are we really, of our, like, level of recognition, are we really, it seems a little bit, like, presumptuous to be like, we deserve to be making a living off of this. Because, like, in a way, we don't really, you know? Like, maybe at a
of
certain
ways.
point, like, you do want to make, once you've reached a certain point, like, you do want to be making money off, like, a living off of it, but, like, I don't think that it should be assumed that just because, like, you are an artist that you should get paid to do that. Like, you need to...
Totally. And I think even if you're a really good artist, you shouldn't necessarily assume that you should live off that. I mean, there are a lot of good artists that had to work other jobs while they were.
Yeah.
And I feel like part of being an artist is doing it not necessarily because, like, you think that you should be paid for it, but because, like, you can't not create it.
Right.
Right.
You,
Exactly.
You have to do it. It's, like, part of who you are. And so I'm not trying to say, like, artists shouldn't get any money, because I think
Right,
that's
right.
fucked up. But, I mean, I think that you also can't feel entitled.
Yeah, but what if we all quit our day jobs? Would it be any different? Would we really be selling that many more records? That would
Well,
make
we'd
it
be
different?
playing different gigs. Like, we would take the gig that in LA would pay us, $4,000 last minute to go do that, right?
When did we ever get an offer like that?
The Tumbleweeds just got that offer.
Yeah. Well,
Are you in their email chain? How are you getting this inside information?
I Instagram. But
Oh,
yeah.
they're putting that online. That's fucking gross.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is an interesting topic to discuss because
It's a challenging one too.
well, nowadays information is so readily available and it's free. I can pull up on YouTube right now pretty much any song ever recorded, no matter how obscure, and I can listen to it, and I'm not paying anybody.
And you can listen to it with like absolutely abysmal audio quality.
The
and-
worst sound
Yeah.
quality. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh, that's where the bass.
But
could have been.
that brings up like where does the value lie? Like, what is the value? Obviously, we know that art has value in society. I think art is one of the few things that actually has value in society. It's the only thing that actually changes things is art. Revolution rarely starts because of politics. It starts because of artists, like, showing people what's actually happening and then those people internalizing it. So art has real value, but we haven't created a system where that value can be determined and allocated to people in a way. Because information is freely available, you have to really start to question, well, what, I'm consuming this and it's affecting me, and at what point do I owe
Give
that
back to
person
that.
something in a certain respect?
And it's funny because it all comes down to the internet, because once downloading became a thing and like Napster and all that, it was kind of game over.
Yeah.
And since then, consumers, we haven't looked back. Since then,
Yeah.
like music was free, basically, is
Right.
what's happened. And that's what's tanked the old school model. That's why there aren't executives picking up like $8 million bonuses at the major labels anymore. Like that's why they're all struggling. That's why everyone who was an A&R, like 90% of them got cut. It's the reason why the whole music industry is in turmoil.
I wouldn't
It's
say
because-
that's why.
Yeah, I think it is.
Inability to
Adapt.
evolve.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
for sure.
But that's what's happened, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
People there's this new medium, and people kind of decided that they didn't really want to pay for that anymore. Once they realized that they didn't have to, then they're
Yeah.
not going to.
Yeah.
And I still I have a Spotify premium account, and I feel kind of dirty about it, man. Like I can just like in the space of 5 minutes, I can add like 10 new playlists and like select available offline on my Wi-Fi. I just have those albums now. Period.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Spotify makes you feel dirty too.
it's
like
terrifying.
you're looking
It's
for
crazy.
everything.
You can get
You
anything.
just have to Kaza that stuff. It's like Napster,
LimeWire.
LimeWire,
Remember that
yeah.
shit?
and now
You
you
had to
can
work
just,
for it a little bit.
Yeah, and then you get some pretty nasty viruses with that too. Any other extracurricular downloads you were doing on there?
Oh, you mean like video games?
Yes.
Exactly, video games.
Yeah.
No, but it's interesting, and I'm not really sure where we end up as a result of that. All I know is that
No
we
one
just
knows.
want as many people as possible to listen to our music. So, we'll
Yeah,
put it up on
exactly.
SoundCloud, we'll put it up on Spotify, we'll put it up on our Bandcamp
for free.
and iTunes, whatever. Wherever we can throw it, we'll put it up.
Take it.
If it's another platform, that's where we are as a band. I think that's where a lot of bands are.
And I think a lot of good artists, a lot of the artists that I respect feel the same way. Like Radiohead put In Rainbows up for free. They're just like, just take it.
or
If
pay
you
what you want, right?
Yeah, pay what you
pay
want.
what you want. They just
Yeah.
put it up there. I mean, that's
can
the
do
right
that.
thing.
And that was one of the best albums that's been made in the past 10
Oh.
years. So, like,
Yeah.
And they're
sweet.
just like, that's the right mentality. Instead of being like a Metallica, it's like, oh, we're
Right.
gonna sue you guys for doing this. It's like, we're making music. We
He's
play
not
games.
here.
It's like being a fucking baseball player. You're like out there doing what you love all day and doing it really well, and everyone wants to listen to it. So why would you restrict that? You know?
let me down, Lars. Let me down.
Lars, you struck out in the eighth.
Well, that was a big thing, actually. I mean, mp3.com when I was coming up was like, I had a huge profile on there and was building shit up and all this stuff and generating a following, and then all of a sudden Metallica comes along and says, "Oh, well, this existing threatens my existence and is stealing from me, therefore this shouldn't exist." But there were many other people who were suddenly getting the chance to sort of flourish in that environment that is just cut down.
That's the thing, man.
Well, and it's
Are
cool.
you an artist or are you like an
I make
entertainer
music
selling
myself.
a commodity, right?
Yeah,
No,
I
no,
mean, it's the purpose of it is to get it out there to the world.
Yep.
It's
Well,
and
now
if you can make
have
money
these
from it,
bands
then
that can
yeah.
release a single on their Bandcamp page and then all of a sudden blow up and
Yeah,
then
that's
suck
true.
live and tank. But we couldn't even have that, if
But that's-
if people couldn't self-release music and have it as equally weighted as the stuff that major labels.
Self-create, self-produce. This gets back to what you were asking before. Like it totally sways the scale to our favor in terms of negotiating with any label, in terms of negotiating with any big commodity that says, in order to get your music out there, you have to work with us. We can create it ourselves. We can put it on all these different
It's
channels.
100% creative control, and that's really cool.
Yeah, which is incredible when you think about
Yeah.
10 years ago,
Yeah.
2004.
I mean, we know a band who will remain nameless who just got offered a record deal with RCA, and they're
Nirvana.
not sure if they're going to take it because
Wow.
they feel like they could probably have more control themselves,
Because
Yeah.
once RCA are interested, that means you're doing something right, and you probably have enough.
Yeah, you have the control.
You probably have control already. That's
Exactly.
pretty cool.
But it's also what can they give you other than distribution channels? Huge line of credit.
Cadillac.
Cadillac.
That you end up, you're paying
Oh,
for it
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They're advancing it to you.
Yeah,
the
and then
advance,
you
that's
owe all
pretty
that
terrifying.
back. It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think one of the most interesting things is that we're living in a time right now, because it's so technological, people don't make the connection, but this is really the byproduct of punk rock. All of this exists because of that punk rock mentality where you can just grab something and say, you know what, fuck this, fuck what is already there, and let me just do what I want to do and put it out there. And one of the most profound things that someone has ever said to me was that, in terms of, this person was talking about vocals, recording vocals in music, and your personal singing style, and whether you should try and change the way you sing or something like that. And what this person said was that just sing, just sing with your voice, and there's going to be someone out there that it resonates with. And that's all that matters, is that you are putting yourself out there, and other people are able to identify with it in some way. And it doesn't matter if it's the most polished. It doesn't matter if it, if you have the same sort of tone as like, the best singers in the world. It's about putting yourself out there and allowing other people to play off that.
And people can hear if you're faking it.
Yeah.
People can hear if you sound like
that's
Nickelback and
definitely
you're doing your fucking like fake Eddie Vedder thing.
Come on.
If you're doing your Creed or your Nickel, if you're doing your fake Eddie Vedder, everyone, people can hear that. And you sound like a chump, Like,
Was your friend Mr. Rogers?
No, but he was just as inspirational.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's a very good mentality. People get afraid of that, though.
Well, that's the hardest part. I mean, if
Especially as an
everybody could
artist.
do it, then everyone would be doing it.
When you create something that you're like taking a step out on the limb, and you're like, shit, man, this is the best I can do, and you want to share with the world, like that's like the most stressful thing.
Yeah, I mean, being a musician and being an artist and sort of putting yourself out there to the world is probably the hardest part. Whether you have talent or not, it's actually like being able to get up there and be vulnerable enough to put yourself out there to the world.
Yeah.
So,
but the result is the best part too. It's like when you feel someone connect with that, like that's the best part right there, man. That's what makes it all worth it, right? Is that you like, all right, I'm feeling this, and someone else is vibing with me.
Even
like
if it's only one or two people.
Yeah,
just
just
like,
somebody
look
be
at you and be like,
that song meant something to me. It's like, holy shit. All right. Yeah, like that's worth it.
well, all right, guys. I think we are about getting to the end of this podcast. I want to thank Guy Fawkes for coming down and hanging out with us for an
thank
hour
you.
and a
Thank you,
half
guys.
hey, thank you guys.
podcasting. We are going to wrap this up with some trivia. The prize for this episode of Between You, Me, and Jose trivia is you can win a pair of tickets to see Guy Fawkes and Waterstrider co-headlining at Slim's on Saturday, July 12th.
Oh, they're famous.
Yep.
You might have heard of these guys, Guy Fawkes. So yeah, we are going to do 5 trivia questions today. Our trivia is brought to you by the one and only Donnell. He has crafted
I'm still here, guys.
5 incredibly well thought out and potentially difficult questions.
Yeah, really,
So-
really hard questions, guys.
So nobody here blurt out the
Yeah, the
answers. This
history
is
of calling
only for the listeners. You get whoever gets the correct answers to all 5 of these questions first, sent to info@slims.com. Sorry, info@slimspresents.com. First person to get all of them correct wins a pair of tickets to see Guy Fawkes and Waterstrider at Slim's Saturday, July 12th. So get those in as fast as you can.
Is that a baker's pear or a normal pear?
It's a pair.
No one's ever
2
said
tickets,
that.
guys.
The baker's dozen. Yeah.
2 tickets, guys. 2 tickets.
You get 2 tickets.
Two tickets. All right.
You can probably negotiate.
Baker's pear.
All right,
All
guys.
right,
So
drum roll, please.
yeah, question 1 is actually from this podcast. If you were watching it, you would have this answer. There's a chicken spot in Oakland, North Oakland. What is the name of this chicken spot? They have sandwiches. They do not have a sign. We discussed it for a while in the middle of this podcast.
All right.
Question 2. The track San Francisco from Guy Fawkes' second EP features guest vocals. What is the name of the singer, and what act are they most notably affiliated with?
We hope you were listening.
Question 3. Name the 3 bands that were featured in the same So Far Sound event as Guy Fawkes. Question 4. During Guy Fawkes' summer tour of 2013, the guys played a show in Lawrence, Kansas. What venue did they play in?
Ooh.
Question 5. What Guy Fawkes song is about a house party gone wrong?
All right.
Good luck.
If
luck,
you know
guys.
all 5 of those answers, email them right away to info@slimspresents.com and you will win a pair of tickets to see Guy Fawkes here at Slim's. It's going to be an awesome show. Waterstrider is a great band as well.
So good.
It's going to be a really solid local show, so Even if you don't win the tickets, definitely come on down and check out that show. I want to thank the guys from Guy Fox again for coming down here and hanging out with us and being such likable fellows. Thank you guys.
Look
And,
great shirtless as well.
Look very good shirtless. So thanks for tuning in to Between You, Me, and Jose, the Slims Presents podcast. We will be back next week with another guest. Follow us on YouTube, Slims Presents. We are also on Twitter, BYMJ Podcast. And every Wednesday at the Slims Presents blog. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, what up?
Guys.
Good night.